One thing I was thinking about is, think about like Nike, Adidas, right?
Mm.
We're in the same market selling almost exactly the same products, right?
Mm.
And I was just thinking, okay, because any industry, there's multiple brands and you're all selling similar products. But you said from the beginning that branding is about storytelling, right?
Mm.
So if I'm selling you the same thing and we have a similar vision, how do I create a unique story that differentiates me from you? You understand what I mean?
Mm.
Like, because we're so similar
Yeah.
and we're selling the same kind of thing. So why would you come to me? Like, what's your thought process, or what do you think is the reasons that create something that's more, mine is unique and yours is different than mine?
Well, it's if we take product differentiation totally out of the the
Sure.
story, Nike and Adidas do have different stories, and they actually serve very different kinds of people.
Really?
And then when Under Armour came in, that like further enhanced the spectrum. Obviously, I don't like. I guess sportswear is my comfort zone, so somehow we're only talking about that.
That's fine.
But or something that I know a lot about, I guess. So maybe I'm just gravitating. But yeah, like Nike is the American counterpart to Adidas, right? And Adidas comes with the European mentality and Nike comes with the American mentality. So you're starting from there where they're fundamentally coming from a different mindset, and then they're serving different people's lifestyles.
And cultures, right?
And cultures, right? Yeah. Absolutely. So like Nike was very much a performance brand. And now it's become a lot more lifestyle or lifestyle / focused on these subcultures or sports. But then Under Armour came out as the performance brand. So then that redefined performance. And then you had like the Nobles that were like sport specific and that stuff. So everything changed. But when they started, Nike and Adidas, like Adidas wasn't, not that it wasn't performance, but it was selective about the sports that it aligned with based on its culture, based on the people that were around. And then they have Adidas Classics, which was very much like the, not luxury, but like the ready to wear everyday casual that you definitely don't train in.
Yeah.
And so they did like what we would call athleisure way before athleisure was a thing, way before Nike did it. Nike was just making running clothes. So there was that. They were catering to different mindsets to start with, and then they had to compete on a global level. So of course you start to have the overlap and you start to have to fill the gaps that the others are doing. But yeah, I think they told different stories to begin with based on who they were trying to speak to.
Yeah. One thing I'd never considered was, which like you said, the core of it, which is one's an American company and one's a European company, and the mindset and culture that comes behind that, already it's going to have a different kind of story because you're a different kind of people selling to different. And I never saw it as that different, but now listening to you explain it, I'm like, oh, okay, there is a much bigger difference than I was aware of, because I look at it as so binary. I'm like, okay, Adidas or Nike, it's very, in my mind, they're so similar, but clearly they're not. You said something earlier about social media, and nowadays, everything is kind of about like digital marketing and your social presence and like all that kind of stuff, right? So how important is it now in your opinion to have a strong presence in the digital and like social space? Why is it so crucial right now?
For brands or people, or both?
Both.
Because brands, I think that's the first point of discovery. If you're not going to be on social media, like you may as well not exist.
Okay.
And it's so harsh, and
Yeah.
I wish I didn't feel that way because I don't value social media that much, but unfortunately, especially, I mean, I'll take, even if I take COVID out of it, but how can you? People have really, really shifted how they interact with things, how they find things. And like I always think about this moment. I was in a lecture like several years ago, and we were talking about how we live in the world of artifice. Like everything we do is created, everything we do is designed to how you and I are sitting. Like the table has been designed to have people on two sides. How you hold a glass, like that's been designed. All of it, every moment. There's nothing in our life that isn't designed. So that comes into now living in a digital world where how you think and how you interact and how you shop, that's been orchestrated for you. And so if you're not playing that game, you're not in the game. This is social media.
Yeah.
And and for people, I think it's less so important. It's becoming more important. Like, I got an Instagram. I remember, I think this was like 2012 or something, maybe 2014. But because I was applying for jobs in the design field, and they were like, "You're not a designer if you don't have a social presence." You know,
Really?
like, yeah, you need
Oh,
it.
wow.
Yeah, you
Okay.
needed to show your social media handles
Okay.
in your job application at that time. And I was switching jobs, and I was like, oh shit, like, okay, I need to do this, like, Instagram first post, like, what do I do? So yeah, it's becoming, I guess, depending on who you are and like what space you live in, pretty important. But at the same time, I think Asian experience still has value. Like, I see a lot of people that I really respect that have basically no social presence because they're too busy getting shit done, and that's awesome.
Okay.
You know?
So how did those guys kind of start getting the kind of awareness and reach that like social media has? 'Cause it seems, or at least my perspective is, without it, you can't really scale or get really get your name out there unless you're working with like some really big guys and you're already like have a body of work that is well known in that particular industry for you to be like, oh, I know who that is. You know, I don't need to see his like socials or her socials to like understand what's going on.
It's the body of work.
It's the body of work.
They just do work. They put out good work.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I would say, are definitely if I'm thinking of specific examples, quite a bit older. By quite a bit, not like they're old, but they're not even in 10 years range of us.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's having the experience behind you to do great work that is recognized regardless of how it appears in this box.
Yeah. No, I think that's very true. I think the age plays a factor in that, just because you've had more time to do more things. You know what I mean? But one thing that you actually, and we spoke about this a little bit briefly before coming to like age and like experience. And I think on the social media point, it gives you the opportunity, whether in a positive or negative way, to show that you have a lot more experience than you might actually have.
It's a show-off space.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were talking about how nowadays it's more about experience than your age, because your age doesn't define. You could be like 50 years old and have not and done nothing. You know what I mean? And vice versa, you could be 28 and have done like 10 million different things and like started businesses and so on. So why do you think that shift has become so much more prominent nowadays?
Because we're not doing things in such a linear way anymore. You know, I think about like my parents' generation. My mom, she wanted a lot, but because there was a way to do stuff, like you do this, then you do that.
Yeah.
Like you don't skip steps.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
don't skip steps.
You don't skip steps. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, what? You're so radical.
Yeah.
So, and you do that, and then you naturally limit your potential. And then everyone's kind of working their way up in the same way. Whereas for us, and then Gen Z, I can't even keep up. Totally different, and you can actually break the rules sometimes, and you can do things that are a little unorthodox, and then all of a sudden you've gained experience regardless of where you're supposed to be at a certain age. And like, we broke that, you know, door open, but Gen Z's just like running through it. So the generation after us is so like they do what they want when they want it. And because they have access, because now they live in a much more digital world. Like, we had dial-up growing up.
Yeah, we
right?
did.
Like,
yeah, we did.
Digital was not that accessible. Like, I saw a meme today about Netflix. I don't know if you ever did it, but like Netflix used to be DVDs that you get mailed to you.
Really?
And you would only get 3 at a time. So it's like, I get to choose one, mom gets to choose one, my sister gets to choose one. That is it. You don't have endless options.
Yeah.
You know, so like our life was different. And for them, endless options, endless opportunity, access to the entire world at your fingertips every day. That is mind-blowing if you really think about it.
That's true.
So when you have all of this, you can't think about their age. You think about what they're doing with their tools.
Yeah.
That's their experience.
Yeah. They have, so it's kind of like they have the tools now to build that experience at a much earlier and faster rate than we, like us 100%. And previous generations have as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nah, I never. Now with you saying it, I'm like, oh shit, no, that's very true.
It's
That's very
crazy.
true. We talk like we're so old, like, oh, when there were DVDs,
Yeah.
and our parents had fucking no internet, no nothing, and we're talking shit.
I know, but really, like when I tell people I used to order Netflix in the mail, they're like, "What?" Like,
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
That's how it started, by the way. I had no
Yes.
clue. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, look at it now. They just flipped the whole thing.